Sound, action, camera. Hi, everybody. Today we have Supriya Pujari from Pune. She is an accredited life coach, ACC from ICF, that is International Coach Federation USA, and NLP, that is Neuro Linguistic Programming Master Practitioner, author of the book Being Me. She has been honored as Incredible Woman of India 2018 by We Are Oneness Foundation Hyderabad for empowering and transforming women leaders and for being an inspiration for women. Supriya Pujari has been honored as Pride of Maharashtra Award Entrepreneurship Services for her contribution in social change through life coaching by the hands of Chairman National Commission of Nomadic Tribes, New Delhi. Supriya ji is also a coach for women leaders at Collective Impact Partnership that is funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, California, USA. Thank you, Supriya ji, for agreeing to be a part of a podcast show. A warm welcome to you. So I'll You're welcome. So I'll start with my first question. Tell us something about yourself. You have such great credentials, but I want to know, like, what inspired you to choose this career, this wonderful career that you have.
Yeah, if I answer that in one line, then it will be a series of failures and wrong decisions to summarize, because I belong to a very small town of southern Maharashtra. And I have born and brought up there. My education is from a small town as well. And then I have spent almost a decade in human resources as a function. Then I've spent a decade into human resources as a function. And I was everything was going well. My HR career was good. I was handling several countries for HR analytics. But then there was a personal event that hit me so hard that I almost went into a clinical depression. And when I say clinical depression, it is the clinical depression, not like the teenagers and millennials say today. Typically how they operate today is if they are having a bad day, they are going through the depression. But that was the real one when I was clinically depressed. And I tried to talk to family and friends, read a lot of books, motivational videos, none of it was working. And there was a moment of realization that no matter how much you succeed in your materialistic or professional life, if you're not able to handle your mind properly, nothing of materialistic success is going to help you to move ahead and evolve as a person. That was the moment I underwent life coaching sessions through my life coach. And that's where I realized the power of self transformation. And I
So
have
where
So
were
where
you
were
experienced that
you
during
in
shift
this
within
all
during
this
me.
all this
time?
time?
Which part
Which
of
part of
Maharashtra were
Maharashtra
you?
were you?
You were
You,
there. You
you
were
were
in
there.
Pune,
You were
or
in
you were
Pune, or
saying a
you were
small
saying a
part,
small town of.
No,
Um,
so so till my masters, I was in Kolhapur, if you have heard of Kolhapur. So near Belgaum. So I was there till my masters, and then I shifted to Pune for my job. So my professional HR experience is from Pune, and typically I have always worked in renewable energy as an industry domain.
wonderful. Why I'm asking is because women in India in small town, they do not have access to information to these courses like, life coaching, how to become a accredited life coach. That is why I was curious. Like, who told you about this?
Absolutely, you are very right because that was the movement. That's what I'm telling you. When I had the clinical depression, the only thing I was going through is something is terribly wrong with me, and I cannot move forward. The only thing I need to do is do not tell everyone, not to talk about it, and just sit at home and sulk about it. And it's very wrong to discuss everything outside. That was the moral, I would say, or the society demands at that particular time because that happened in early 20s. I was in a very, I would say, early age when I was going through this phase. That's the reason when I was in Pune, thanks to my HR colleagues and my mentors over there, they referred me to a life coach, and then my journey of self transformation and self realization started.
So I have a curious question here. You have your HR colleagues and you yourself were curious about life coaching. Did you not think about going to a shrink, to a counselor, to a life coach yourself before starting to learn about it?
So I did that. I went to a counselor, not a counselor, maybe I think she was a psychiatrist. But the moment I was prescribed the medication, that actually, thanks to your question, actually, the moment I was prescribed the medication, there was a first instinct that said that no, something is wrong. I understand that you are going through a tough phase, but I'm not sure how much medication is going to help in this. That's the reason I shifted to something conversational. Being into HR, we have access to a lot of facilitation workshops, right? And a lot of trainings per se. And then I underwent a couple of self-transformation workshops. But again, as I said, it was not helping me to come out of that because everyone operate on different island and no one fix, helps everyone. It's like there is no generic medicine for that. Because for me, my problem was bigger than everyone else. That's how we typically operate, isn't it? So that's the reason one led to another, and I arrived at a life coach. I think that's the last stop where I realized the power of self-transformation, understanding how human mind works. And that's where I was introduced to this wonderful area of NLP, that is neurolinguistics. And that's how my journey began.
Okay.
And when you rightly said about women, I don't know if it is a coincidence or I'm attracting clients that way, but majority of them are women. One is probably because globally, if you see the global average, women are undergoing a little bit more stress life than the men. Men also go through it, but I think societal and global change has not reached to that level where each and every woman is absolutely clear about and they choose the life. It takes a series of process to go through before they start doing and living the life on their own terms.
I think you're very lucky, Supriya ji, that you got the support of your colleagues and friends when you were depressed. Because I know that in India, especially in small town, if you're unhappy or sad, people generally don't give you a lot of emotional support. They will sometimes point out to you also that probably it was your own mistake, and still going to a psychiatrist or going to a counselor has a little bit of social stigma attached to it. Did you face that also? What is your opinion about this?
I faced a little bit in the society, but I'm thankful for my parents because they were besides me, behind me always. And in fact, whatever I have got during this journey, that became an anchor to realize that many women outside are not having access to this kind of support. They are meant to keep quiet. And as you rightly said, yes, I have kind of enforced some of the social norms in terms of you are not supposed to do A, B, C, and X, Y, Z. So there were rules let down, and typically every woman goes through it at least once in her life,
Yes.
where she realizes and understands that enough is enough. If I'm not dead yet, I think I need to do something about it. That's the peak that we reached. And trust me, in that phase, I have also thought of ending my life altogether. And right
Oh
now,
my
I can
God.
say it upfront because it's important. It's important to share that, yes, I have gone through it. And if I can go through it, anyone can go through it. I'm like an ordinary woman today. So, but that was not the end. You know, then the life.
So I think speaking up is what you are telling me. I am learning that it is important to speak up if you're not feeling happy, if something is bothering you. You should not feel shy and admit that yes, something is wrong in my life. I need help, emotional help. Is that what you're telling me right now?
Yes, yes, perfectly. Because what we do is, so suppose tomorrow, God forbid, but if someone hits with some traumatic or unpleasant event in their lives, first they do is they talk to people, known people, maybe best friends. They operate from their belief system and they keep on sharing their point of view. So if you're lucky, you can get good advice. But if you're not, you will be, pushed into more traumatic events in terms of ये ऐसे कैसे हो गया ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए था. So there are two kinds of people who sympathize and who gives you solutions.
And somebody who will blame you also. I have the third type of people also I meet, Supriya ji, who will blame you that you are a woman. You should have more bandwidth to have this emotional strength. You should try to adjust, compromise. You are a woman.
So historically, I guess the certification of a great woman is based on the sacrifice and the number of tears she sheds in the dark. I think so.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
uh, yeah. So once you go through that, it's like a typical daily soap actress. You know, the more she cries and the more she plays the victim role, the TRP increases. In real life
Yes.
also,
Yes.
if a strong woman is often labeled as aggressive and not so good to fit in the society as well. So yes, there will be blames on you in terms of. I think as a woman, you need to sacrifice. You need to understand. You need to keep quiet. And the worst advice is be patient. I understand being patient helps, but not in the context if you are the only one who is suffering and there is absolute no help around. What are you going to do by being patient for no reason? You need to take action for yourself, and the environment is simply not allowing you to take those actions.
Hmm.
So,
So,
So, one point we feel that yes, something needs to be done, but I guess that's the only self talk we have when we sleep and we wake up. Nobody is listening to that talk.
so I'll come to the practical tips now. Like you are so well accomplished in your field, you're so well educated in your field. So can you give some practical tips to our viewers that how to overcome the problem of overthinking, overanalyzing that leads to worry and stress? And especially, I'm talking with respect to people who are working these days. Corona is going on. People are so much stressed out, working from home. Can you please give us some tips that I can use, my viewers can use, and de-stress?
Yes. I think it's the most common challenge that anyone goes through. Let me ask you a question, Anuradha. What are the circumstances when we overthink? Overthinking is nothing but the self talk, right?
So if like I meet many IT professionals, then they have to attend this meetings, and sometimes there's an office bully, or they have deadlines to meet. I'm giving you two examples. There can be other, they are worried about losing their jobs, whether I'll be able to perform or not. From a corporate point of view, from a emotional point of view, you can also say that I wonder if I'm going to be successful in my marriage. This is a broad problems.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anuradha. I think you have given the solutions in your answers as well. We'll take this answer in two parts. One is why this happens, why overthinking happens, and what is overthinking altogether. And second part, we'll cover about how to deal with overthinking. First of all, overthinking is nothing but a constant self-talk you have with yourself. It means that you are constantly creating another identity within you to talk to. It's most of the times it's on our head, right? That whether I should do this, do that or not. And rightly, you said that in terms of worry, I think human mind is master of creating possibilities, and most natural possibility to think of is the worst. What worst is going to happen, right? Then you can think of two aspects. One is love and fear. Why do we overthink? The source is either we do it from the fear of something, fear of failure, fear of not being right, fear of not being perfect, fear of not being accepted, fear of not being judged. These are all the fears that we operate in. And second is love. But love is also manifestation of fear sometimes, that whether I will be loved, whether I will be accepted, whether I will be termed as a fit person. That's what I said in my own journey, that I have done that. I have done that constant overthinking that led me to some decisions. That's the reason the possibility that we create are based on three timelines. So if you see, we have three timelines. Uh, One is the past, present, and future. So imagine that we have three timelines in our life, and I am in the present right now, but the possibilities that I create are either based on my past experiences or my future worries, isn't it? So physically also, if you see, there is no place existential or worry or stress or overthinking in present as a tense. We need to identify the sources first. One is what is exactly making me overthink? What are the beliefs that I'm carrying inside me? What kind of past events and past experiences have triggered these kind of thinking in me first? And from the future, we need to understand, we need to have the balance of being in the present moment as well as thinking about the future. Being in the present moment, it's very easy to say, but trust me, Anuradha, there is no person in this world who is 100% always in the present moment. It's practically not possible unless you are a real spiritual guru, and you have spent decades into that. We are a social human being, so we need to think constantly about our future. And in a way, that's how it drives us, right? We have something ahead of us to achieve. We have something that gives us happiness. That's the reason we are working towards some goal. So there is no harm in thinking about future, but you have a choice what you need to think of and how much. Because there are three circles, right? First circle is of thinking circle, where your cognitive and analytical mind takes over. Second is your feeling, everything related to emotions, and third is action. All three are synced and they are linked to each other. So, for example, if you are constantly thinking and feeling about it but not taking action, that leads to procrastination. If you are acting first without putting the thinking and feeling around it, it again led to regret. And again, the overthinking loop starts. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the overthinking is stemmed from fear and love, and the sources are in your past and future. You need to identify that the purpose behind the overthinking. Now let's get into solution mode. How to kill overthinking? There is only one answer, Anuradha: clarity. Because I am not clear, I keep on building the possibilities. ऐसा हो गया तो क्या होगा? वैसा हो गया तो क्या होगा? What if I fail? And today, if you see the generation who is working from home are having a lot of social commitments in terms of family. They are having different stakeholders. All they do is overthink about kind of proving themselves, be it a corporate life, be it a personal life. We all do certain things to prove our existence to someone, especially in case of working women and some category of males as well. There is a lot of need of perfectionism. कि मुझे करना है तो ये सही करना. I want to do it right. Yeah, I want to be perfect. As if, again, as I said, as if you are going to get a certificate of a perfect person. We overthink because we don't take actions. And why we don't take actions is, of course, individually there will be different answers to that. But typically, it because either we do not accept the present in as is condition, because either we compare it with the past, either we compare it with the future, or we compare it with someone else altogether, or we assume that my way is the only way.
Yes. So I think from I'm understanding we have to do some change in our thinking to let go of this practice of over analyzing thing. We should be more forgiving of ourselves to start with in order to relieve stress from what I have learned from you in the past 5-10 minutes. Thank you for your answer, Supriya ji. I also want to know that many times people talk about letting go. कि उसको जाने दो, but they are not able to actually जाने दो, let go. So can you tell me or tell the viewers what are the easy things to do to let go of thoughts, beliefs and people who are detrimental to your personal growth?
Sure. So again, a wonderful question, Anuradha, because everything we are discussing is linked to and one is leading to each other. So letting go of thoughts and beliefs, you tell me, is it practically possible? Is letting go of thoughts and beliefs a commodity? Is your belief system and the thoughts that you carry, is it a commodity? कैसे उठाया और जाने दिया? ऐसा नहीं होता, right? So imagine if we have a jar that represents our life. We have all kinds of thoughts and beliefs. So letting go करने के लिए हमको वो उठा के फेंक देना है. But what about the vacuum that is created? We need to constantly pour something, right?
Correct.
So instead of letting go, the easiest way is to replace them.
Perfect.
Very nice.
Very nice.
And again, the process of overthinking takes over, because the moment you start and the moment you initiate the action of letting go, all your mind chatter will come again. Because ये तो मैं जाने दे रही हूँ, but what if this happen? What if that happen? अगर ये मुझे नहीं मिला तो, क्योंकि हमको सब कुछ चाहिए, हमको perfect जीना है ना. We want to lead a perfect life in eyes of everyone, be it at our professional colleague, be it our superiors, be it some authority figures at home, be it in our children these days. There is a constant struggle to be a perfect parent as well.
I think there's an emotional vacuum in your mind and heart once you let go of something. Even if that is bad, you're used to that pain, you're used to that emotional, attachment.
Yes, and it's going to be there, to be honest. Human mind will not operate like a machine, right? ये delete कर दिया और वो permanently shift delete हो गया, ऐसा नहीं होता. The thoughts and beliefs are going to come. I think the clarity and awareness of what kind of beliefs and thoughts I want inside me is 100% my choice.
Okay.
Okay.
Because my ability to respond to a situation needs to be 100%. The first question is, what kind of thoughts and belief I want? And there is nothing like right beliefs and wrong beliefs. The only question you need to ask yourself is, if I want to letting go, what is it that I want to acquire instead?
Okay.
If any thought or belief is making you weak or dragging you backwards, or in very simple terms, if it is giving you some kind of unpleasant mental state, then it's very clear that we want to get rid of it. And if you want to let go and get rid of it, let's invite something which is worth keeping that inside, right?
Okay.
Okay.
The moment you want to let go of something, immediately find a positive or empowering belief for yourself. Let me tell you a small case study that I have. We were dealing with some identity issues with the woman, and we were conducting the self-image exercise with her. So earlier, she gave me an image of a tissue paper. So I asked her, why are you using tissue paper as an image for yourself? Because she said that I think I am very useful to others and anyone can use me anywhere. That was the image that she was carrying inside her. But once we let go of those kind of beliefs, because there were a lot of negative beliefs, weakening beliefs that were created.
True.
Once she shifted from the weaker one to empowering one, she termed herself as a white peacock. I can dance on my own tunes. That was the most empowering belief that was replaced for her.
Wonderful.
So that's how the letting go circle works.
All right. So, can you tell us something about progressive thinking? I was reading it at your website that you promote this. What is this progressive thinking?
Okay, so Anuradha ji, let's make it a little bit interactive, and I'm going to ask you a question. I believe and I assume that you are from Bangalore, right?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and I am a foodie person, and to be honest, South Indian food is my favorite ones.
Okay.
But we'll take the same analogy and proceed. So imagine you are waiting in the restaurant, and I come to you to take your order. I'm the waiter there.
Yes.
Yes.
And if I ask you, what would you like to have? And the way you are going to place the menu is, I do not want dosa, I do not want idli, I do not want medu vada.
Okay.
What I'm going to do? As a waiter, what I'm going to ask you?
You're going to
You
ask
to
me
ask me
what
what
do you
do you
want to
want
eat
to eat
today?
today?
If a waiter usually asks me, what do you want to have for lunch or dinner, depending on the time of the day, if I'm getting a question correctly. So I'll tell that person that, okay, I want to have chola bhatura because I'm basically from North India. Oh, I'm going to say I'm going to have, ice cream.
But the way you are answering the order is something that you don't want. In terms of, I don't want filter coffee, I don't want ice cream. The waiter is going to get confused, isn't it?
All right.
All right.
Okay.
The
Okay.
immediate reaction is going to be,
What do
I
you
What
want?
do you
understood what
want?
you don't want, but
Okay.
what do
All
you
right.
want
Now I
instead?
understand.
Got it.
Got
Yeah?
it.
Yes.
Yes.
So imagine that I, as a waiter, is your mind. And since you are operating from what you don't want, so the opposite is regressive thinking. I do not want
Okay.
confusion. I do not want stress. Right? I do not want to worry. Yeah, I do not want to overeat. So this kind of examples are typically how we do the talk with ourselves. When you introduce the progressive thinking,
Yes.
you simply answer, what do you want instead? That's how you shift from a victim mode to solution mode. It's very easy to share what I don't want. I don't want to be viewed that way. I don't want to be perceived that way. I don't want to be the victim of politics at my organization. I don't want to be bullied. I don't want to be dominated. So these are kind of examples people often, go through, and they talk everything regressive. कि क्या नहीं करना चाहिए इसका लिस्ट बहुत बड़ा हो जाता है. But one simple question of progressive thinking is, what do you want instead?
All right. So if I know what I want, I'll start working towards it. अगर मैं छोला भटूरा खाना है, so I'll go and choose a probably North Indian restaurant. Or if I want a good job, I'll start searching for it rather than complaining. From complaining mode, I come out to the solution mode.
This is what progressive
Solution.
thinking.
Solution.
Solution.
Perfect. Yes.
All right.
All right.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Nice.
Very nice.
So my next question is, how do we say no to people? Like some people, especially women in India, they are used to saying yes because they have to maintain a good image. They want to have a certificate, and sometimes by keep on saying yes, yes, they ultimately impact themselves, their lives. Is there any good way of saying no? And especially in organization, when boss is saying you are in a board meeting and you want to say no, 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 but because you are afraid of losing a job, your salary is important to you. Can you give some tips to say no nicely?
Yes. To be honest, Anuradha ji, we say no twice. First no is inside our mind, and second no is through our mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
Correct.
So I think the second one is a natural process if you are very clear inside, if you are very clear within,
Okay.
Okay.
and there are only two questions: why and how.
Why?
Why
You
and
need to
how?
have
Yeah.
All right.
you
All
need
right.
to have absolute clarity in terms of why do I want to say no. It doesn't matter if it is whether for a job opportunity or a promotion or a transfer or a few people who are toxic, who are sucking your energy. You have full right to say no, but you need to be clear about the purpose behind it, and you yourself need to be convinced first.
All right.
All right.
Because if in your mind you are saying maybe, and if you start the overthinking and then upfront you say no, you're actually operating on 50% confidence.
Okay.
Okay.
That's one. And second is the belief of I am clear about why am I doing this and I can do it. Because saying no or saying yes are going to have some consequences, and every choice will have a price to pay. So if you can anticipate that in advance and evaluate them and be prepared for all kinds of consequences with the right kind of beliefs that are going to empower you, I think saying no is just a small activity. The internal work inside our head needs a lot of churning, I would say.
Absolutely correct. I have to convince myself first before I speak out. Very nice.
And believe in yourself as well.
Okay. Fine. So my next question is, I have only two more questions to go. Like people realize that they have to change, but they still resist change. So I want to know why people resist change and how can they adapt to change easily. Change are so many. Like if I want to shift from Pune to Bangalore, or I want to change my friends, I want to change my home. So I am talking about from the experience that I meet so many people who know that they want to change, but they'll just not move.
Yeah. Again, as I said, let's talk about why people resist change. I think the assumptions play a very important role here because we assume that my way is the only way and we try to convince the world around it. And the power of assumptions is so high that I cannot simply open myself for experimentation. There are two kinds of decisions. One is we decide immediately based on our own assumptions and mental state, and second is we experiment, we evaluate, and then take a decision around it. So the people who resist change are the people who assume and they are so deep rooted in their belief system in terms of my way is the only way, any change is going to harm me, yeah, and I may lose the power. I think these are the three typical inherent beliefs that drives us from resisting change. The only thing is how to adapt the change in terms of, again, everywhere, if you see Anuradha, my entire discussion is leading towards the purpose and the why question. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
You need to also understand the why of it as well. Why am I resisting change, and what can I do to adapt? And what will happen if I change? What will happen if I don't change?
Okay.
So the second is the purpose behind it, and third is the clarity. You need to be absolutely aware about why change is important for me. And you need to let go and replace the old beliefs with the new one, because that's how you will evolve. No? So whoever resists change of any kind is going to become stagnant. It's like a river. The water needs to flow.
Correct. This brings me to this one last question, that we all want to be emotionally strong. So it cannot happen overnight like that. Is there any effective tools with you by which I can become emotionally strong, so I can still learn to say no, let go of my beliefs, and change myself? How to be emotionally strong in this chaotic world around us?
Yes. Being emotionally strong is the only way out in any kind of situation. And I would go back to the basics, just like the schooling, we were taught about ABC of life. Let's start with ABC of being emotionally strong. So the A stands for awareness.
Okay.
And when I say awareness, there are two kinds of awareness. Whatever
Mhm.
is happening around me, I call it as awareness. Today, the COVID has changed the world in a drastic way, and everything related to this is getting affected.
Correct.
Correct.
So that's the awareness piece. Yeah. So whatever is happening around me, be it COVID, be it its impact on industry, be it that struggle with the China that we are facing. So anything that is happening around me is called as awareness.
Awareness.
But
Awareness.
the bigger question is how it is impacting me as an individual person. That is self-awareness.
Okay.
So when I say ABC, the first step of being emotionally strong is be absolutely aware about three things: your thinking, your feeling, and your actions, and have absolute clarity in terms of what am I doing it and why do I want to do it. Purpose drives passion. So the more clear you are about your purpose of each and every thought, each and every feeling, you are good to go. That stands for beliefs. We have already discussed about thoughts and beliefs. So if you have an empowering belief with you, and the belief of you are enough, you are an emotionally strong person already. Because when things are going smoothly and when the things are going in your way, just the way you plan, everything becomes beautiful, isn't it? And the beliefs are generated that yes, I am right, and I think this is the only confident about myself. But what happens when things do not go your way? That's how your belief system starts with the regressive thinking that I am the only one who's going through it. ये मेरे साथ होना ही था. I'm a big failure. I cannot succeed. I think I'm not doing enough. I need to be perfect. So the belief system can change your life. You just need to experience and develop the right beliefs. And the third is clarity. And when I say clarity, so for example, if you want to start something of your own, simply thinking something is not enough. We need to have a crystal single thread clarity in your thinking process. It's very easy to label our emotions. Even if you are having a small bad day, you are going to label it as a depression. Why are we doing that? Let's be clear about what is exactly happening inside me. Am I just having a bad day? Is there really need to term it as a depression altogether? Because this is the most frequent issues that teenagers are coming with. Parents are coming with that. Typically, if my Instagram followers are less, I become depressed. If I'm not accepted on the social media, then my life is failure. So let's be clear about what's happening inside me, what's happening outside me, and get the ABCs in place. And the most important thing is progressive thinking, as I said. The amount of time and energy you are going to put in thinking and feeling of something that you don't want, you need to be mindful of that. The moment you shift your thinking to the progressive and solution oriented, you are good to go. And the last thing is, please talk to right person. Seek professional help. There is nothing wrong with it. And it is a myth that you need to be in a clinical depression to seek help. No. Today people connect with me for small decisions Today, people connect with me for very small issues in their life, but that are going to have a deep impact if not addressed right now. So it's not about what am I going to invest. It's all about how much I can bear the cost in terms of my emotion and energy, in terms of not doing something about myself and seeking help about it.
Wonderful. Very wonderful. You have explained how to be emotionally strong. Supriya ji. So we have come to the end of the questions I prepared for you. If there's any story you want to share, any message you want to give to my viewers, the floor is all yours.
Story is, I would say, a story of an average human being. You know, let me just summarize all the stories because I have coached more than 4,000 clients now. So I talk about a lot of stories about my client, but I would summarize this and I will share a story of a common man or a woman. I would say a common human being. We have born and brought up in a particular way, and we have collected all kinds of thoughts inside us by the power of observation when we were kids. And based on the environment and based on the experiences and the people we meet, our belief system evolves. But once you become at a certain age, your challenges are going to change. And then you are going to decide based on the past events and the collective wisdom of yours as well. So the story revolves around a normal human being who has completed the circle of life, but you have two choices whether to live that life or whether to survive. If you want to live that life, please make it worthwhile. Please make a determination of conscious living when you are aware about all the ABCs of your life and when you are okay to let go certain things, and please let go of the certificate of a perfect human being. And the story ends with, if you want to lead a really, I'm not going to use the word happy, it's overrated, but if you really want to live a fulfilled and a mindful life, I think accepting yourself and loving yourself unconditionally with all the possible flaws society and anyone have ever given you, please accept it and embrace it wholeheartedly. And if you want to write your own story, ensure that at least one person is inspired by your story. The last message that I would like to give is, your mind is a wonderful creator of possibilities. Also, your mind is ready with all the answers that you need. You just need to ask the right questions.
Wow, such a nice message. I have learned so much from you, Supriya ji. I am sure other people have done the same. Thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure to meet you, to talk to you. It has been a privilege. Thank you so much for coming to our podcast show, and I hope to meet you again someday with more questions. Till then, have a nice time, have a nice day ahead.
Shortly, and I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity so that we can interact. And I have seen your work; it's really wonderful that you are doing, and I'm very happy that we together are spreading this message of mental health and awareness across the people. And it's wonderful to meet you in my journey, Anumati. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
So nice
So
to
nice
meet you.
together.
All
All
right,
right.
bye.
Bye.